It's brilliant. So we're just getting set up here. We're going to move around a little bit and move the light and make sure everything's working well so that you can watch what I'm doing around here and see how it goes for you. And I've got a light set up because actually it's a bit dark in here today. And so we can move the light and make it good for you and do anything that makes it more comfortable. And welcome to everyone who's watching this live. And if you're not watching it live, that's cool too. Hopefully, you're going to enjoy this recipe. Today, amongst all these bits and bobs, I am making my fig and ginger bites. And these are literally, I think it's the most requested recipe that I have. And actually, at most of my events, I always make some so people can try it because it's so satisfying. And today, I'm going to show you how to make this in real time. And hopefully, some of you can cook along with me. But also, I'm going to just show you how easy it is to make, how nourishing, and I'm doing a little bit of a bone health slant on it. So I'll tell you as I go along, just slight tweaks to my original recipe to make it even more nourishing for your bones. So I'm going to begin by moving my cup of tea, which has gone a bit cold. I'm just going to move that out of the way. And I have a whole load of figs here. These are dried figs. I actually buy them online because I like really nice big ones that are good value as well. But wherever you get your figs from, sometimes they are a little bit softer than my ones, if you can just see my ones. And then that's fine. Then you may not need to soak them for so long. These are quite hard. So I've actually already pulled the little tips off them. What I'll also show you is this one I haven't. On the very tip of the fig, you get a really hard stalk. And so I'm just I'm twisting and nipping it off and pushing those stalks out the way. Now, in the recipe, I initially say, and that's another stalk I'm nipping off. In the recipe, I say use 12 big figs, and there's also a weight in the recipe. I can't remember what that weight is. It'll all be in the notes below. And because I'm actually adding a little bit of a change to this recipe, I'm adding just a few extra figs in because I'm adding a little protein powder into the bites. And I don't normally do that, but actually that means that the fig slice isn't quite as sweet. And the only sweetness in the fig slice are figs. And I need a little bit more sweetness, so it's just a little bit more enjoyable to eat. So I'm adding, instead of 12, I'm adding in about 15 dried figs. So that's up to you. Now, I'm taking those dried figs, I'm putting them into a bowl, and I've just boiled my kettle. So I'm going to get some hot water, and I'm just going to soak them for about 10 minutes in hot water. You can soak them for longer if you're not quite ready to make the slice, but don't soak them overnight or anything because then they'll go really sloppy and over soaked. I find 10 minutes in hot water is fine, but half an hour is also okay. So I'm going to leave them to one side and let them soak. And the next thing I'm going to do before we get into the fig slice is I'm going to start to melt the chocolate, just so it just quietly melts whilst I'm making all the made fig slice ingredients. I've got about 100 grams of really dark chocolate. I've got 90% dark chocolate here, and I've just broken it up a little bit. And the reason I'm using really dark chocolate is it's only a really thin little layer on top of the fig bites. And I want that little thin layer to be quite a strong hit of chocolate in my mouth. So it communicates to my brain that I'm actually eating chocolate, but I haven't got a whole board of sugar in there or fats that are not doing me as much good. But I taste the chocolate. So it's a little bit of a trick to your brain or only taste buds. Okay, so I've broken that up a little bit. And I'm also adding a little bit of olive oil. And the reason I do this is once the chocolate's cold in the fridge, it goes brittle hard. And when I bring this slice, as you'll see at the end, I'll bring a slice out that I made earlier and I will cut it. And you'll see that if it was, I didn't have the olive oil in the chocolate, then the chocolate actually just crack and break when I try to cut the slice. So I'm just putting, often it's 1 teaspoon of olive oil is enough, but I'll put just a little bit extra in, maybe 1.5 teaspoons. There we go. I'm popping that in, put that out the way. And now I'm just going to, this is some of that kettle water I put in here, so it's already hot, doesn't have to be. I'm going to be putting this on the stove, bringing it to a simmer, and then actually turning it off. And I'm just leaving that on top. And it just slowly melts whilst I do everything else. And that's all I have to do. So I'm just going to take it over to my stove and just bring it on. So that's going to be just simmering away. And then the very last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start to melt some butter. You only need about 50 grams of butter in the whole slice, but this is what I'm going to do, and I might just measure it all. And now I'm going to get a saucepan that I'm just going to melt the butter in and get a knife. Good. So I'm measuring about 50 grams of butter. Actually, that's a bit too much. And it's the butter that kind of holds it all together, as well as some of the seeds that soak up a bit of moisture and become sticky. So you need a little bit of butter. Now, if you don't eat butter, use coconut oil instead. It works just as well. So that's roughly 50 grams. There we are. Pop that out of the way. And I'm also going to put that on the stove and just melt it. So it's just melted. That's all I want. So I'm going to do that. I'm just getting my stove to work here. Okay, that's good. All right, great. Now that's done. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just get the other ingredients ready. I have got almonds, I've got sesame seeds, I've got some chia seeds. They are providing protein, fiber, anti-inflammatory oils, and a lot of calcium actually. So it's a good amount. What I'll do is I'll put in the notes for you what each little bite, what amount of calcium and protein and fibers in each bite. And you'll be surprised actually. I'll pop that into the notes. I'll just do a calculation after this video and work it out for you. So I'm going to be putting those in, which means that this little bite that you're going to have, which you might have just at the end of a meal, a main meal, maybe after lunch or after your evening meal, has got so much nutrition in it. And yet it's absolutely incredible that it tastes so delicious and it's so nutritious. So that was my goal, and great for your bones. Right. And today I'm using a little bit of soy protein powder as well. And soy protein powder, I'm putting that in because I wanted a bit of extra protein in these bites. And protein is really good for your bones as well. Not only do you need plenty of calcium, you need protein because protein makes up the collagen matrix that the minerals then sit within in your bone. So you need protein as well as minerals for your bone health. So I'm putting a little bit of extra protein in. You don't need to at all. I'm just using soy protein because I love it because it also contains isoflavones, which are phytoestrogens. And so it's a really good win. This is a soy isolate protein powder. It's great. It's organic. Let's get the tin ready for later, which is what I'm going to be pushing it all into set. So I'm just making the sides of the tin sticky so that the baking paper that's lining the tin just sticks to the sides. And a little bit, this is just good for leftover buzz. You could use oil, any of them. Right, so that's ready. Now I'm just going to see if my butter's melted. Roast. Okay. Now I'm using a stick blender today to mash up my figs and butter together. And this is the easiest way of doing it. If you don't have a stick blender, then you need to get a fork. And what you want to do is just mash up the figs. So they're kind of, they can still be in little bits, that's fine. But you just mash it up a bit so it's sort of roughly chopped using a fork. Sometimes they even use a kind of like a potato masher, and that's what you need to do. So that's helpful. So I'm just putting my stick blenders together. Okay, good. And I'll be doing that over by my PowerPoint, but I'll do that at the end and I'll just show you what I'm doing. All right. Okay. So that butter has melted now. Here we go. That butter's melted. So that's good. And so I'm just going to drain the figs and hang on. Yeah, no, the water's cool enough for me to touch. So just get most of the water off, but you need a little bit of moisture on those figs, actually, because the chia seeds that I'm adding to the slice, they kind of suck up the moisture and they form a lovely kind of sticky gel with that moisture. And that's a good thing. You need that to help the whole slice to stick together. All right, so in here I've got melted butter, soaked figs, and I'm actually at this point also going to put in some nut butter. I've got here some almond butter. It's about 250 grams of ready prepared almond butter. And when I say almond butter, it's kind of almond spread. All it is literally 100% almonds that have been ground up commercially to form a kind of a butter. And that's fantastic. That's really, really, really good. And you can use peanut butter as well. The only thing with peanut butter is it's a really strong flavor. So your whole slice tastes of peanut butter. And if you like that flavor, great. If you're not kind of fussed with too much of a strong peanut butter flavor, then I suggest you use something like an almond butter, or you can buy pumpkin seed butter. You can buy other different types of nut butters, and they'd all be good if they're milder flavored. Okay, so there we go. That is the nut butter in there. Now, I'm going to use my stick blender, but I'm not sure because I'm not in my own kitchen today. It doesn't quite reach over, so I'm going to actually use it over here. And I'm just switching it on and I'm just mashing off those figs with my stick blender. And so they don't mush it into a mushy mass. I'm making sure I manage to get the fig. Sometimes stick blender misses the odd fig and it just becomes squashy. So we'll check it afterwards and see how that is. The stick blender also makes it much faster. But you can totally just use a fork and mash up the biggest lovely soft, just be something in hot water for 10 minutes. Really. All right, so that's ready. If you can just see, and that's the stick blender. So I'm just gonna get it out of the stick blender, any left over. There we go. All right, brilliant. So let me show you here, kind of just how it is. It's just this mushy, lovely, sticky mass, and that's a good thing. That's really good. That's what you want. So here we go. So you see, even with the stick blender, I've got a few kind of whole bits of fig. Oops. So I'll just pull that apart a little bit so it's just not, there we go, not together too much. Nice, really, really nice. I think I'm going to get a better mixing spoon. Here we go. Right, now it's already thick and sticky and it's quite a delicious mass, actually. At this point, I'm going to put in ginger. Now, I adore ginger. I love how it works in my body, in my digestive system. And I'm just using a knob of ginger And I'm actually using a grater that's quite coarse. I'm doing that on purpose because I actually want the flavour of the ginger to come through and not be lost. So I'm not using a fine grater. And there's no need to peel ginger. I have washed this ginger and so it's absolutely fine. So I'm just grating that in. Now, how much ginger you add in is up to you. In the recipe, I say 2 heaped teaspoons, but I adore ginger. So I think I'm going to go for a tablespoon of grated ginger in my slice. You just decide what you like and enjoy that moment when you bite into the slice and get, oh, bit of gingeriness. It's right, there we go. So that's the ginger. I'm going to mix that in before we get to the nuts and seeds. Here we go. All right, perfect. So I've mixed in the ginger. That's all I've done. You can see how it's kind of coarse there, and you can actually see the ginger bits. That's good, and that's what we want. So I'm putting a cup of almonds in. Amazing protein, really good protein source, fiber, and calcium. It's good for a plant food, of course. Amazing protein source. I mean, obviously we've got fish and chicken and other meats, which are really good protein sources, but for a plant food, it's very good. I'm doing half sesame seeds and chia seeds. So I'm going to do half a cup of sesame seeds. Of all the seeds, sesame and poppy seed, in fact, chia seeds pretty good as a calcium source. So that's why I chose them, because we're trying to really get in here some nourishment for your bone health beyond dairy foods. Dairy foods, wonderful, but here we've got in the protein and the calcium and other minerals. There's also magnesium in this slice. I'll put all this in the notes below for you. So half a cup of chia seeds going in. All right. So now this is where you've really got to mix it in. It's sticky, it's mushy, and it's just delicious. And I just got to make sure it's combined well enough. So you don't just cut into the slice and suddenly get a massive blob of almonds. So mix that through. Yeah, there we go. Fantastic. And the other amazing thing about this slice and any fiber-rich foods, that also helps your bone health because fiber, eating plenty of fiber, has anti-inflammatory benefits in the body. And inflammation in our bodies actually negatively affects our bone health through many different mechanisms. And I'm at the moment writing a kind of quite a long, detailed article about that mechanism that I think you'll find interesting to read. That will be out on my Substack in a few weeks' time. And also, I'm kind of getting myself ready for my bone health workshop, which is in fact next weekend. And so I'm going to be telling everyone there all about it as well, which is really good. Yum. Right. Let's get this in. So I hope some of you are cooking along with me. Remember, you can always pause this video and come back to it if you want to catch up with what I'm doing. Okay, now this bit is where you want to get it right into all the corners. This is just a regular brownie tin size, 20 by 20 centimeters. And I actually use my hands. You can use the back of a spoon, but I use my hands, and you want to get it all really nicely packed down because when you come to cut it once it's set, you don't want any air holes or anything in it because otherwise the mixture actually is a bit too crumbly. This is just looking exactly what I want. Now, I've forgotten to put the, the protein powder in after all that. Not to worry, I'll put it in the next one. So the protein powder makes it a little bit drier, which is why I wanted that moisture around the figs, but it's still working out absolutely fine. Okay, here we go. So there it is. And let's pretend you put your protein powder in. It's about half a cup of protein powder that you would use. lastly, I'm just going to put that chocolate on top. Now, this is what the chocolate looks like. It's just been sitting on top of hot water I that was simmering, and then I turned the heat off so it would just stay warm. Now, the trick here is just wipe the moisture from the bottom of the bowl, because when I pour it now, you don't want that moisture, those drops of moisture going here on top of the slice. There we go, lovely. I love the smell of melted chocolate. It's so delicious. Love that. Okay. And because it's melted and all soft still, then I can just tilt the slice, and I can get that chocolate just going around all the edges and then flattening in the middle. And what I'm going to do with this is pop it in the fridge. And as soon as the butter has set, the whole thing's ready. And for some people in their fridges, that might take an hour, maybe a little bit longer for others. I'll pop this in the fridge and I'll get out of the fridge the other one that I made yesterday. So popping this in the fridge, I should make room. All right, nice. So here's the one I made yesterday. And this one did have the protein powder in it. So it's gone hard because it's set, and that's a good thing. And that makes it easy to cut. So let me do that. And then I'll bring a cut piece up to the screen for you so you can see. So when I'm cutting it now, the chocolate is not cracking and breaking because it's got that little bit of olive oil in, which makes it so perfect. So there is the finished slice. And you can see a little thin layer of chocolate, so that on your tongue you think you're eating something chocolatey, but in fact, you're not eating anything too sugary. And it's so delicious. And I really hope you enjoy it. I'll put down in all the notes information about the recipe and how much protein and fiber and calcium and magnesium that little bite contains. And I really hope you get to enjoy it.